Hello and welcome to another episode of Attention Span Labs. I'm your host, Mike DiBaggio, and this is a very close to miniature eye view of my Wargames table. And what you're seeing here is also the glorious zoom and pan features of my camera. Hope you appreciate it. Okay, so this table uses Geo-Hex terrain, which you can see here with the hex patterns that I pull out. These are styrofoam, flocked on both sides, except for the hill sections like this here, which have both cliffs like that, as well as slopes that can be ascended easily. And these are stackable, reconfigurable, and a large number of permutations that are allowed by the geometry of the pieces. Now you're going to see this table in a one-page rules battle report that I'll post eventually. Hopefully not too long after this video goes up. So it's going to look slightly different. That was a sci-fi game. I sort of updated this one to have some more fantasy level ruins. I think it is quite appealing as is right here as a almost a kind of Shire-ish terrain. I really like the relatively bright green midtones on it. It's not quite a highlight, but what I would call a highlight anyway. But I think my Wargames Atlantic Halflings look really good here. Like I said, I did play a Grimdark Future battle here, but it would also be extremely good for historical games or fantasy. And I'm just going to do a orbit of the table here if I don't step on my boxes of painted miniatures here. Now all the terrain on top is like handmade. Like that's that one right there is actually the first piece of terrain I ever made 4 years ago. And you've seen if you watch my channel, you've probably seen videos for this piece and this piece over here. Yeah, and the trees are mostly bought model railroading type trees with washers on them. A lot of them are Christmas surplus trees. We talked about that as well in the previous video. And then the bridge here, this modular bridge piece, is actually several independent sections with ramps going up. And it was made so that it could also be stackable with some easily assembled trestles if I needed to make it higher. And they're just they're coffee stir sticks, popsicle sticks, some wooden dowels. The bushes are just lichen. So as you can see, there's quite a variety of these Geohex shapes to make some very interesting patterns of hill sections that blend slopes and cliffs, the regular, and of course even the regular flat terrain. Some pieces have roads on. Now this is a 1-inch road. They also offer 2-inch road sections if you buy them, if you get them custom made. So 1 inch is very good for 15 millimeter. It is pretty small. It's like more like a path cleared through the brush for 28 millimeter. but it would be extremely good for games that are on a smaller scale. And that's either games that are at like 6mm, 10mm, whatever, 15mm, or games where the basic miniatures are much larger than an individual man, such as in BattleTech. Hope I'm not doing too much zooming in and out, too much fast panning. There's another bridge section I'm using as a dock. That little boat. It's from the Fairy Garden section at a hobby store. You'll probably find one at Hobby Lobby. Or you can make your own, but it's not well suited for wargaming per se, but it's a very good scenery piece. My miniatures actually fit in it pretty well. So the purpose of this video is just to give you a flyby of this board I made. This is the first Geo-Hex board that I've actually played on. You know, and this is fur, painted fur, representing high grass. But I'm going to go into some more detail on the Geo-Hex pieces and show you a couple sets, because I have several sets, some that I bought secondhand and some that I ordered directly off Kieran Rohan, who makes the Geo-Hex terrain to this day. Geo-Hex has been around since at least 1986, I think. And actually, before I was even really heavily into wargaming, I saw Geo-Hex terrain and I was kind of blown away by it. In the first edition of Star Wars Miniature Battles by West End Games, which if you're a fan of the old West End Games RPG, you can pretty much pick up Star Wars Miniature Battles very quickly, because it's very similar system, uses mostly the same stats. But anyway, they used Geo-Hex terrain in that book and they recommended it, and I've always wanted it since I was, geez, what was I? Got that book in the maybe 95, so I was 12 years old. 96 maybe. But I could never afford it back then, of course, because I didn't have any money. And then when I had money, I sort of forgot about it. Or I wasn't into wargaming. So I was surprised to find that they were still making it, but more on that a little later. There's my marsh terrain. I have a video on these too. One thing I would recommend, if you're, that you will not see here, unfortunately, if you're having a lot of forest areas on your terrain and you don't intend them to be individual pieces of trees, if they're intending to represent a much denser forest than is actually practicable to put on your tabletop, what I would recommend is that you cut out little strips of felt to put around. When I say strips, I actually mean like maybe small blankets of felt to put in irregular shapes to outline the area of the forest, so that your trees are representing maybe the most significant large trees in the bunch. But so the point of this is that if the unit is on the felt, you know for 100% sure they're in the forest, for whatever that means. That might mean cover, that might mean line of sight, and so forth. Whereas if you just use the trees, and they're meant to represent more than just, say, what you see here. Like if you say this is a real battlefield and there's only so many trees on the table, but there's a lot more in the reality, it's much harder to tell exactly. Line of sight is not too hard to tell, I guess, if you're doing that. But like, what counts as cover, how deep they're into the forest in terms of visibility for them seeing out and shooting out, or someone seeing them and shooting in. Yeah, so cut some felt, put them around your forest. But also like, scattering little bits of lichen, clump foliage helps add some verisimilitude. This area is supposed to be a swamp or a marsh. Okay, and as you can see here, you can make these hill pieces as high as you like. So there's, if you start here, think of this as level 1. So that's section here would be level 2. Level 2 there starts with a slope. And it goes up to here, level 3. And these boards, by the way, are about a ½ inch thick. But, there's no reason you can't stack them 5, 6, 7 high. And they do actually stick together for the most part. The ones, so on this table I have some batting around the edge of it. These pieces here that are going to hold the bottom pieces in place. And yes, it is a hex, so it doesn't fit perfectly in a rectangular table. But this is a 6 foot by 4 foot table, by the way. But anyway, yeah, so the pieces that you do need to keep together, say on the level 2, level 3, there are little pieces of cardboard or plastic connectors that these pieces, actually, here, let me show you. Those little slits there, that's where they go, and they will hold pieces together. Yeah, you can go 3, 4, 5 levels high, as high as you want, basically, to make some really significant hill sections. Now, I also have mountain pieces, which I will show you later on in the video, in a different cut. I just got those more recently. The only other thing I guess I should mention here is these make nice river sections. Now, there are river tiles, which I also have, and which I will be showing you. But I assembled this table before I had the river tiles. And so we have this little bit of river, which is basically just defined by the river banks, and a bit of blue cellophane. And this blue cellophane was specifically recommended by the classic, and unfortunately no longer online, Major General Tremorden Rettering's Colonial Wargames page, which was a site I was very fond of from the late 90s through the mid 2000s. And they recommended buying this. I actually got it at Michael's like 10 years ago. And they said this was the very best thing they've ever used for their water portions of the tables. The nice thing about it is I will show as you. So I push the Kraken along. It makes little ripples as you're pushing along. I no longer remember the exact brand of this, but probably any blue cellophane will do. This is more the kind that you find for gift wrapping rather than wrapping food. But yeah, so that's my table. And now on to showing you some of the individual boxed Geohex pieces. And we're back with part 2 of my video on Geohex terrain pieces. Last time I showed you my original board setup. And I say last time, but you're going to be seeing this in the same video. But as promised, this one has the brand new, meaning that I just bought them, river pieces. And mountain terrain, which are mixed in with my older secondhand. You can see that they're older. The other tiles, the secondhand tiles I got, including the road tile, the green hills, and so forth, because they're a slightly lighter flock. I'm not sure whether that's fade or just that they decided to use a different kind of flock over the years, which wouldn't surprise me. I don't think it's fade because it's pretty consistent. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the hills, or sorry, the mountains, the hills too, of course. We saw the hills last time. Large mountain pieces and the river pieces are very nice. We actually did modify the river pieces a little bit. If you saw the picture I posted in the community tab with my wife Shell painting the gloss medium on them, give them a bit more shine, and to blend away a bit of the underlying styrofoam pattern. But they were pretty good as is. Everything else that comes exactly as it is out of the box. This table I have set up for right now. It was for a planned one-page rules Space Maze 69 match. But I also intend to play a game of Conflict 47 here. And let's get a shot of this side of the river, because it also features a ford. Here you can see a shot of the mountainside. There's Pip. Say hello, Pip. It can come right up to the edge. There is a Y-shaped piece near the bridge. And obviously this other terrain on it did not come with it, but yeah, I'm really pleased with it. I think it looks beautiful. Lots of great vertical dimensions on it. It looks a lot better than just having, a few foam-made hills. Not that they're not good. I do still use them as like rocks and outcroppings. Or even just like a few larger hills like this. This really looks like more real terrain. And it's a pleasure to game over. We did play a couple games, which I'll be posting a video, a one-page rule match that my friend Russ and I had. But yeah, so I'm also going to take a look at some of the other pieces in boxes just to show you how many pieces I have, how many pieces you get when you order. So we'll talk about that here first. Now the original pieces I got were secondhand, as I said, and I ended up getting something like 24 regular green tiles, the road set, which includes even more road there, and that comes in 1 inch or 2 inch. Now I got it in the 1 inch. That's just what the guy had. And it had the green hill set, which are these pieces, slopes and the cliffs. And also a standard set of tiles. Now that all MSRP nowadays would have cost over $400. I think I paid $200 with it, including shipping, or $250 with shipping. But these other sets, so the river tiles, which includes all you see here, plus about 4 other tiles, was $125. The mountain set, which includes all you see here, plus more, was also $125. And Kieran gave me a discount on it, so for buying 2 sets at once. And the shipping was free. The nice thing about buying it, shipping is free domestically. I assume that means all of the United States. Might just mean the lower 48. But you can ask him. I'll post his contact information in the description if you want to place an order. And I really do recommend you try out at least one of these sets. It's really cool. The production time was very fast. It was delivered professionally. Unfortunately, the river set, sorry, not the mountain set, the river set was delivered late, and it had some spillage on it because, according to the post office, they allege that someone else shipped something that was fragile liquid or or otherwise hazardous, and it leaked over it. But there was no, it was just damage to the box. There was no actual damage to the tiles. So not Geohex's fault, but you get one more quick view of the other side. And we'll take you to a walkthrough. Just a quick walkthrough of some of the pieces.